Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a basic granny square with color transitions. So to get started, just grab the yarn that you're going to use and the correlating hook size for that yarn. Make sure you also have a pair of scissors, and you're going to want a darning needle to weave in the ends when we're done. For this particular square, I'm using Hobby Lobby's I Love This yarn. It's a worsted weight, but it's a little bit heavier than your normal worsted weight, so it calls for a 5.5mm crochet hook. Okay, let's get started. So first, we're going to make a magic circle. This might be tricky for some beginners, but I find that it's a lot easier for me to use once you get used to it. I don't particularly like the method of chaining 4 and then working the double crochets into that circle. I don't think it closes up enough in the middle right here. There's always like a hole or a gap that I find that gets left, so the magic circle is just my preferred method. So in order to do a magic circle, just real quick, you're gonna wrap the yarn from front to back, around, over, and then it's gonna make an X. So I'll show you one more time. Wrap the yarn around your 2 fingers from front to back, wrap it over and over the front, making an X with your 2 fingers. And then you're gonna take your hook and you're gonna go under the X, over the top, around like that, and you could just leave it like that. That counts as a yarn over, but I like to go take my hook and go under this yarn at the bottom and pull through, and then that counts as your first stitch in the magic circle. So now we have our chain 1 in our magic circle, and we're going to chain 2 more. 1, 2. And then we're going to do 2 double crochets into the magic circle. If you don't know how to do a double crochet, you just yarn over, put the yarn through, or I'm sorry, put the hook through the circle, yarn over again, pull up through the circle, yarn over again, pull through the 2 loops that are on your hook, so you'll be left with 2 loops on your hook, and then pull through the last 2 hoops on your hook, and that is a double crochet. So I'll show you one more time. Yarn over, put your hook through the loop, yarn over again, and pull back through the loop. Now you're gonna have 3 loops on your hook. You're gonna yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over again, pull through the last 2, and that is a double crochet. And that's going to be the stitch that you're gonna work for the entirety of this granny square. So now we're going to chain 1, and we're gonna work that again into the magic loop. Another double crochet, double crochet, and a 3rd double crochet. And then you're going to chain 1. And you're going to do this 2 more times. Yarn over, double crochet, double crochet, one more double crochet. So that's my 3rd cluster of 3 double crochets. You're going to chain 1, I just chained 1, yarn over, and we're going to do 1 last cluster of double crochets. So we're going to double crochet 3 times. And if you need to, you can tighten the circle. Makes it a little bit easier to handle. So one more double crochet. Now you're going to tighten it all the way. And we're going to do one more chain. And then, this is a little tricky if you're a beginner, but this right here is the first chain one that we made into the magic loop. And this one is the second chain, and then this one's the third chain. It's a little hard to see, but there's 1, 2, 3 chains. We're going to slip stitch into that top chain, the third one. And if you are a tight crocheter like I am, it might be a little hard for you. So we're just going to slip stitch, and to slip stitch all you have to do is slide your hook inside of the stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then you're going to pull through the yarn that's already on your hook. So we're not doing anything special. All right, and now you have almost like a little cross here. You've got 4 clusters of 3 double crochet and 4 chain 1 spaces. And that is going to be the beginning of your granny square. So now to switch colors, some people do it differently. I like to do it, see how all of these are the same? They're kind of the same orientation, your stitches. If you were to just chain 3 like this and then turn your work, you're gonna have a variation in the way that your stitches look. And I don't particularly like that. I like my stitches to look uniform, but this is crochet. You can do whatever you wanna do. If you like that look, then go ahead and do that. And it is a lot easier. You don't have all of these, ends that you have to weave in at the end of it, but I think it just gives a neater look overall if your stitches are uniform. This is one that I am making for a big blanket. I'm just doing a giant granny square patchwork blanket, and you can see that I used that method. So here, this is the very beginning of the stitch of the granny square, and you can see these are the right side stitches and these are the wrong side stitches, because I did that chain 3 and turn method. Right side, wrong side, wrong side, and it just keeps going and going. When you're not changing colors, I think that this is an easy method to use. It's quicker, you don't have as many loose ends to weave in, and you honestly can't really tell if you're just using one solid color. But if you're making a granny square that has a color change in it, like this one, I think it looks better to have uniform stitches all the way across. But that's just my opinion. You can do whatever you want. This is crochet, there's no rules. We're just here to have fun. Okay, that said, we're going to snip this off, this excess yarn. You don't need a long tail. And then pull your hook through and give it a little tug on that. And then we're gonna switch to the next color, whatever your color is. Okay, make sure that you are on the right side. Remember, this is what the right side of the stitches look like. This is the wrong side, and you can tell the wrong side because it has the little tail sticking out of the bottom from the magic loop. And we're gonna start in a corner, any corner you want. I prefer to start in a corner that doesn't have this tail sticking out from our last join. I think it's easier. So I'm gonna start in this corner over here. Put your hook through and just put the yarn for your next color on top of it. Pull through like that. Very easy. Now we're gonna chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And we're just gonna do 2 more double crochets, because this chain 3 counts as your first double crochet. So we're going to do 2 more double crochets into this chain space. Okay, and then we're going to chain 1. And we're going to do 3 more double crochets into the same chain space. So we're working into the same space as before. Okay, and that is our first corner. So now we've made our first corner, and after this row it's going to start to really take shape of a square. Now here you can do another chain 1 and then go into the next chain space and continue making the next corner. I don't like to do that. I think it stretches out the squares and I like them to look more compact, more petite, if you will. And the squares are going to get stretched out plenty when you block them, if you block them. Again, you don't have to. This is crochet. We can do whatever we want. But I prefer to not have that. If you do decide to do a chain one and then work into the next chain space, make sure that you continue that all the way around with all of your colors, with all of your rows. Otherwise, you're going to have a variation in the size of your square. It's not going to look good. It's going to look messed up in the end, and you're going to wonder what happened. And then if you don't keep it uniform throughout all your squares, some of your squares are going to be bigger than your other squares because that extra chain 1 space makes it bigger. So we're not going to chain 1. We're going to yarn over and we're going to go into the next chain space. We're going to skip these 3 stitches. We're going to go into the next chain space and work in there. This one can be a little tricky because of this little guy right here. He always wants to pop out. So hold on to this yarn. Make sure he doesn't pop out of the stitch and work your 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet into this next stitch. Or I'm sorry, not next stitch, into this next chain 1 space. So there's my first double crochet cluster, chain 1. I'm going to work into the same space and do my next double crochet cluster. And there we have it. Now we have our next corner space. And now we're going to do the same thing in the next 2 chain 1 spaces that we have. You're going to do double crochet cluster of 3 double crochets. So you're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 1, and 3 double crochets in this chain space and in this chain space. And then I'll meet you back here when we're done so I can show you how to join. Okay, so I've completed my 4 corners now for this row of my granny square. And in order to join, we're going to do the same thing that we did with the first row. We're going to slip stitch into the top of this chain 3. So this one is chain 1 at the bottom, chain 2, and then chain 3. And we're going to slip stitch into the top of that one. And remember, in order to slip stitch, you just push the hook through the stitch, yarn over, and just pull it back through. And there you have it. And that completes that row. So now we're going to cut the tail again. Doesn't need to be long, but you also don't want it to be too short because you're going to have to weave it in at the end. Pull out the hook and just tug on the yarn a little bit. Give it a good tug. Make sure it's nice and snug. And now we're starting to get a little bit of a granny square. you can see that the square shape is starting to form with the corners that we're making. Okay, so now we're gonna do our next color change. Which for me is going to be this dark purple. I apologize, hopefully you guys can see it on the screen. I don't think it really matters though, because we've already done 2 rows of the double crochet. If you're not getting the double crochet by now, then you should probably pause the video and maybe just practice your double crochets. Okay, so to join the next color, now we have a corner space, chain 1 corner space, and then we have this just space right here, and then we have another chain 1 corner space down here. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna join to not one of the corner spaces, but the side space right here. That's where I prefer to join. It looks cleaner. It's not as confusing, especially for beginners. So we're going to, again, wrap the new color around the yarn, pull it through, wrap the yarn to get our tension right, and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Then we're going to do 2 more double crochets into this space to make your double crochet cluster. And that's all this is. That's all this granny square is. It's just a repeat of 3 double crochet clusters. All right, so that's 3, because this, don't forget the chain 3 is your first double crochet. So we're only gonna do 2 more double crochets in this space because we already have the 1. Now we're going into the corner. We're not gonna chain 1. We're gonna go straight into the corner and work our first double crochet cluster. When you have your first double crochet cluster, then you're going to chain 1 only in the corner. And we're going to double crochet cluster again within that same chain 1 space from before. And we're creating a new corner for this square. All right, see, there's the new corner. So now we're gonna yarn over and do another double crochet cluster into this space. Here's the next corner. We have to make a new cluster into this space right here. And then we're gonna yarn over. And then we're going to do 3 double crochet into the space, chain 1, and then another 3 double crochet into the same space. Chain 1, and then 3 more double crochet into the same space. Okay, now we are done with that corner. So now we're starting to get the corners of this row. And you're just going to continue with doing the double crochet clusters into each of the spaces, the chain 1 spaces. So the next chain 1 space here, you're going to do 3 double crochet. Then you're going to do a double crochet cluster, which is 3 double crochet, a chain 1, and then another double crochet cluster into the same chain 1 space that you're already working in. The next space, you're going to do a double crochet cluster, and then into our final corner, you're going to do another double crochet cluster with a chain 1, and then another double crochet cluster into the same chain 1 space. And then I will meet you back around so I can show you how to join. Okay, so now we've finished this row. We've done all of our double crochet clusters and we have our chain 1 spaces in the corners. So now we're going to join. And remember, this chain 3 right here counts as your first double crochet for this cluster. So we're going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3. So we have chain 1, chain 2, and chain 3. I know, I'm sorry, it is hard to see with this color yarn, but you should be able to see it with your yarn. Hopefully you're not using a dark color. So I'm going to slip stitch into the top of this one. And we have our little square that's forming. So you're going to continue, unless you want to stop here. If you want to stop here and you like the look of the small little squares, then you can stop here. That's perfectly fine. All you would do is just snip off the end. Pull the yarn tight, and then you're done. You have your little granny square. But if you want to keep going and make a bigger square, you're going to continue around 2 more rows. And it's just the same that we've been doing. So you'll join wherever you want to join. I prefer to join on the sides, not in the corners, but that's up to you. So you'll join on the side or wherever. You'll join the next color, and then you'll do a chain 3, and that counts as your first double crochet. And then you'll do 2 more double crochets into the same stitch. And then you'll do 3 double crochets in this corner chain, and then you're going to chain 1, and then you'll do 3 more double crochets into the same chain space that you just worked. And then on the sides, you'll just continue doing 3 double crochets in each of the chain spaces from below. And in the corners, you'll just continue to work the 3 double crochet, chain 1, and 3 double crochet in the same chain space from below. And you're just going to work that all the way around until you come to the end of your round, and you have to join using a slip stitch. So you'll join at the top of the chain 3 that you made for that first double crochet. And then you're just going to do it 1 more row, or however many rows you want to continue doing it until you're done. And then I will meet you back here and I will show you how to weave in all of these wonderful ends. So now that you're done with your granny square, we have all of these ends that we have to weave in. It's not difficult, it just takes some time. So all we're going to do for this one in particular, which is the very first magic loop that we did in all these little double crochets, you want to make sure that you really get this one weaved in tight so that it doesn't come undone. So what I like to do is I just put it through the needle, and then you just want to run it through the tight parts of the stitch, which is usually towards the bottom. The bottom of the stitch. And I just do that a couple times. If you want to, you can also come up here, go through the bottom of the purple part of this stitch. And then once you feel like you've weaved it in enough times where it's not going to come out, you can just take your scissors and cut it right there, and then just kind of fluff it out a little bit so you don't see the edge. And there we are. You can't even see it. So for the other colors that we have on here, the other rows, not the first one, I like to just take this, take the end of it, and run it up through this stitch. And then take it and weave it through the bottom of the next row, because that's gonna keep it nice and tight. It's not gonna come out, especially if you're using your granny squares for clothing. Like I'm making a bunch of these granny squares for a cardigan for my 7-year-old daughter. So I need to make sure that when she wears it, I don't have to worry about the yarn coming loose, any holes forming. And that has happened to me before in the past. I made a granny square tote, which is super cute, but see, like that. You don't want it to just be hanging like that. So make sure you weave them in really well, especially if you're going to be wearing it. Okay, I'm gonna finish up weaving up these ends and then I will meet you guys back here. All of my ends have been weaved in, and because we did not chain 3 and then turn and continue working wrong side, right side, wrong side, right side, we have the right side and we have the wrong side. And because of that, we were able to weave in all of our ends on the wrong side of the granny square. So now we have the right side. So if you do have some ends that you've weaved in that, you know, don't look that great, or maybe you can notice them, you should only be able to really notice them on the back side, not really on the front. Again, if you're making a blanket, I would recommend using the other method that I mentioned, the chain 3 and turn. So you have like this, you have, you know, your right side, wrong side, right side, wrong side, because you can't really tell, especially if you're using the same color yarn for a blanket. That's really, I feel like, the best option for making a big granny square blanket, unless you're just for a basic, this is for a basic granny square. If you're doing like a sunburst granny square or you know, another type of fancy granny square, you're probably going to want to keep your stitches uniform so that it all looks nice. But just for a basic granny square, I don't think that matters. But because we did this, because we're using this for a garment, a bag, whatever, we want it to look nice. So anyways, that is how you crochet a basic granny square. I hope everything was easy and clear for you guys to understand. If you have any questions, please leave me some comments and I will be sure to clear things up for you. If you are interested in learning how to block your granny squares and turn them into a cardigan, make sure you subscribe so that you can see the next video that I put up, which is what I will be doing with these. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.